So today we're going to be looking at multi-step inequalities, and we will solve linear inequalities that have more than one operation, and we will also solve linear inequalities that involve the distributive property. And both of these are things that we've done already with equations, and so inequalities is just that next step. And remember, the only rule change that we've dealt with so far is if I multiply or divide, right, by a negative number, I've got to remember to flip the sign. So whatever direction that inequality is facing, then if I multiply or divide by a negative number, I've got to make sure I turn it the other direction. All right, so let's jump in here and do a couple of problems. And for the first couple, we'll go ahead and solve and graph our solution. I think it's a good idea for us to be able to see that graph and to be able to do that graph as well. So a negative 11y minus 13 is greater than 42. Isolating the variable is still the thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to get y on a side all by itself. Okay, so keeping in mind how we've solved equations, right? We would add 13 to both sides, and adding 13 to both sides, nothing else changes, right? The direction of our inequality stayed the same. The negative 11y stayed the same. Right? Just added 13 to both sides. Trying to get y by itself still, so we would divide both sides by negative 11. And yes, you heard me correct. We're dividing by a negative, and so that's got to flip that inequality in the other direction. And then 55 divided by a negative 11 would be a negative 5. And so that's our solution, y less than negative 5. So on a number line, this would be our negative 5. Make sure that you've got numbers on either side, just to make sure we know what direction that number line is going. Bigger numbers to the right, smaller numbers to the left always. So less than negative 5 would be an open circle, and then would shade to the left. All right, let's do one more here. And this time you'll notice that the variable is on the right side of the inequality. And so we'll make that final switch where we get the variable on the left side, on the side that we would rather it be on. But for now, let's isolate the variable. Let's, excuse me, let's subtract 10 from both sides. Okay. Let's divide both sides by negative 2. Okay. Some of us are going to want a fraction there, and that's totally fine. And when we get to a number line, like you may be more comfortable with the decimal, and that's totally fine. Now, we did divide by negative, and so that means that we've got to change the direction of our inequality. Okay, that would be our final answer. And so here's our number line. And here's negative, and just to make it easy for us, right, there's negative 6.5, which means that negative 6 is on this side, negative 7 is on that side, and we're less than or equal to. Are we less than or equal to? And that's the point I want to go and make right here. As long as I've got the variable on the right-hand side, that inequality doesn't point the direction I want to shade. So let's take a second here, and let's get the variable over here, and let's get our the solution part, our number on this side. And I want you to notice, right, the wide side, the greater than side is open toward the W, and so the greater than side still needs to be open toward the W. And so now W greater than negative 13.2, W greater than negative 6.5, greater than or equal to is going to be the solid, and greater than tells me to shade in this direction. So you don't have to make that final step, but it does help when it comes to shading, unless you can just keep it straight. Okay, this next one is yours to do. Okay, so we subtract 11 from both sides, and 32 is greater than negative 4y. We divide both sides by negative 4. So we have to switch. Okay, so this is your correct answer. And if we wanted to go ahead and rewrite it, we could. Again, the greater than sign has to point to the variable because it did before. And so your solution would be y greater than -8. Okay, the graph, just so you can kind of see, open circle and greater than would shade in this direction. Okay. All right. Inequalities involving distribution. Okay. The rules are not changing, but just like with equations, we probably want to get that distribution done ahead of time, and then simplify on either side of the inequality, and then start moving our variable around, right? So step one, let's get that distribution done. 4 times 3 is 12t. 4 times 5 is 20, so that's minus 20. And then we have a plus 7. We're still greater than or equal to 8t plus 3. There is some simplifying that we can do on the left side of the inequality. So the 12t is going to stay right there. Negative 12, positive 20. When you put those two numbers together, we've got a negative 13. Okay. Everything else stayed the same. Now, we disagree sometimes on how to move from here, but your next step really should be, let's get the variables on the same side of the equation. Doesn't matter which side. I know that I would like them to eventually end up on the left-hand side, and so I'm going to move everything to the left. So we're going to subtract 8t, and we'll have 4t minus 13 greater than or equal to 3. And at this point, this is exactly what we've been doing before with the multi-step inequalities. So adding 13 to both sides, 4t less than 16, dividing both sides by 4, and t is greater than or equal to 4. Okay, that would be your final answer. Okay, now it's your turn. All right, so distribution, 30z minus 18 less than or equal to 36z. Okay, again, all the simplifying that we can do, we basically have it done. Variables on the same side. I probably want them to end up on the left, and so I'm going to go ahead and move them to the left. So I'm going to subtract 36z from both sides. So negative 6z minus 18 less than or equal to, and when I subtracted 36z from the right hand side, that left nothing, 0 over there. Forgot my minus sign. All right, and so from here, now we're isolating the variable again. We're solving for z. So negative 6z, adding 18 to both sides, dividing both sides by negative 6. Remember to flip your sign, and z would be greater than or equal to negative 3. One more for you. This one has several distributions. All the rules stay the same. Ready, go. 2h plus 12 greater than negative 24 plus 3h. Some of those little distribution pieces is going to be the thing that trips up some of us, so you got to pay attention to distributing. Both sides of this inequality have been completely simplified. There's no like terms we can collect. We'll get our variables together next by subtracting 3h from both sides. Okay, then we'll subtract 12 from both sides, and then multiplying, dividing both sides by negative 1, and remembering to flip our sign, flip our inequality, and h would be less than 36.